It's one big fix. It's one big ugly lie. It's one big fix.
The only man in America who can say the same thing 7 times in a row. Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Please save me from ourselves, Stephen Roberts. First, let's talk about the emails and the WikiLeaks. How much of that is real damaging and how much of that is sort of hype? It's very hard to confuse and to understand the difference here.
It is true because a lot of it is vague. I think there's a real problem for Hillary Clinton there. I think any Democrat who denies that is not looking at reality. I think the biggest single problem is the implication that big donors to the Clinton Foundation were somehow given favors and access to Hillary Clinton. Exactly what she gave in return is still very murky. But as we've talked many times, McGraw, this whole story plays into an existing culture of distrust, a belief that the Clintons, both of them, never quite play by the rules. So I do think it's a serious problem, but I don't think it's nearly as serious as the sex tape has proven to Donald Trump, because just think how vivid that is. Think how compelling that is. You know, TV made Donald Trump, McGraw, and TV is unmaking Donald Trump, because the very medium which he commanded, which he used so deftly to expand his personality, to expand his reputation, is now cutting him off at the knees, because that sex tape was the ultimate reality TV. You watched it in real time, and you watched him self-destruct, and the very vividness has had a very serious effect on the election. We in the ABC poll, for instance, 6 out of 10 people said his apology was insincere. 1 out of 3 voters said that tape made them less likely to vote for him, and that includes 13% of Republicans. So, as I say, TV made Donald Trump, and it's unmaking him right now.
He says the fix is in blaming the media, but, you know, he's his own worst enemy. He's blocking out the sun with these ridiculous, insane comments about drug testing, about rigged elections, tweeting about Saturday Night Live. He's blocking out the sun, which is not giving any air so that the media can then talk about the emails.
Well, look, he's appealing to one group and one group only, McGraw, which is most fervent, hardcore supporters. Every time he says the election is rigged, he gets big cheers. Every time he says Hillary should be in jail, he gets big cheers. It works with his base support. But as you and I have talked many times, that's not nearly enough to win him the election. You know, Donald Trump has changed a lot of rules about politics, McGraw, but he has not repealed the laws of mathematics. And the laws of mathematics say you got to win a majority of votes to win the election, or at least a plurality if you got 4 candidates. And you can't win the election if you've got just your hardcore base of support. And that basic truth has been there through the entire election. And what we're seeing is that as he appeals more and more with these outlandish and increasingly desperate claims, as he appeals to his base, he's driving other people away. As I said, 13% of Republican voters, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 13% of Republicans said they were less likely to vote for him because of that tape. And the growing sense that he is simply not suited to be president is crystallizing not only among Democrats who believe that for a long time, but a lot of Republicans. ABC poll, we asked, does Donald Trump have strong moral character? 66% of Americans said no. And when you have that kind of reputation, it's very hard to win the election.
He's as you mentioned, the latest ABC poll is 47 for Hillary, 43 for him. With every misstep he's had, he still has 43% of the popular vote. If he had any type of real campaign going, he can win this thing.
That's absolutely right. I mean, as we've said many times, Hillary Clinton is the most unpopular candidate ever to run for president, except for Donald Trump. And if she were running against Mitt Romney or John McCain or George Bush, should be in big trouble. But his negatives are significantly higher than hers, and that's her single biggest advantage. But the fact that in our poll, he's only 4 points behind. Now, the national average is somewhat bigger. It's 5.5 points if you average all the national polls. Wall Street Journal poll this morning has Trump behind by 11 points. I think that's an outlier. But there are 2 major explanations for why it's still so close. One, as you say, is many Republicans have a profound dislike and disdain and distrust of Hillary Clinton. And no matter how many doubts they have about Donald Trump, they cannot stomach voting for Hillary. And the other fact is that America is so highly divided along partisan lines. There are a lot of people who say, you know, I hate Donald Trump, but if he's the Republican, I'm voting for him. And that's why the election is still so close.
The interesting thing about all of this is the down ballot races. Here in Missouri, we're watching Roy Blunt very carefully. How worried should Republicans be about losing the Senate?
Well, I think very. Now, it's still, I give Republicans an advantage. I think the odds still favor them holding the Senate. But if Hillary were to win and Tim Kaine was vice president and could cast a tie-breaking vote, Democrats have to pick up a net gain of 4 seats. They're almost certain to pick up 2 seats in Illinois and Wisconsin, which leaves 2 others. And there are many other battlegrounds, including Missouri, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Nevada. But someone like Roy Blunt has got to be very worried that if Trump really collapses at the end, there are 2 things could happen that are related. One is that some Republicans simply won't vote at all. They'll be so discouraged that they just won't go to the polls, and if they don't go, they can't vote for Roy Blunt. And the other is that if Trump just loses so badly, you got to get even if people do go to the polls, you got to get them a certain number to split their tickets who are going to vote for Hillary, and then got to turn around and vote for Roy Blunt. Now, historically, there were a lot of ticket splitters in America, but as I said, the partisanship has gotten so deep rooted and so voracious that there are fewer and fewer ticket splitters, and that in the end has helped Republicans in many states in the past, but could certainly hurt someone like Roy Blunt in the next few weeks.
Stephen Roberts, we got to run. ABC News, Political Lounge, the best in the business. Stephen, thanks for checking in.
Okay, pal.
6:58.